Hey everybody out there on the internet, it's me, the Roller Geezer, and today I want to have a little informal talk with you that's hopefully informative about what recently was released by Vice Sports, the Who Killed Rollerblading documentary, because I feel that it's an important piece for us as a community, that it stirs up some conversation, some dialogue about what the community's gone through, but also it should serve as a reflective point for all of us. And I feel that, well, given my little bit of unique perspective on the community, this might be something that needs a little bit more explanation. So hopefully I don't pontificate too much. I am a college professor and we have a tendency to do things like that. So what I'm going to talk to you today about is, first and foremost, the video itself, the documentary. Then I want to talk about various aspects of it, particularly the X Games and David Carney. But then I want to actually talk about this real culprit of who killed rollerblading, because I think it's not as devious as a lot of people believe. So let's just get into it. So initially, that video, Who Killed Rollerblading, cute little title. I know that's just clickbaity stuff they like to do. Totally understand it, but, you know, rollerblading is not dead. It's out of the mainstream, yes, but whatever, that's just what you decided to do. Additionally, for the production and who they interviewed, I mean, they put out some good people. You got Carney and Arlo. That was solid. Shannon Rogers was a bit of a surprise, but she does have valuable insight. But the big one was Angie Walton. I'm glad they pulled her out, because she has been a bit of a recluse ever since Daily Bread kind of went away 20 years ago. And I'm glad she got some of her voice out. I've always felt that she's kind of been forgotten, and I think that's a crime. Even though she's one of the pioneers of what it is that we do. And she's never really mentioned for anything. I mean, she wrote what many would in our community would consider the Bible of our sport, if you will. So I'm glad she had her piece. The whole thing with Carney and Arlo and the whole talk about the X Games and whatnot, yeah, I mean it's rehashing some old things, but at least there's a little bit of reflection this time. Especially now that we get to hear a little bit of Carney's side, which is kind of a first for the inline community. And he did offer something that, you know, inline is more punk rock now than it's ever been. And that was a nice little insight. But by and large, overall, I kind of view this thing as it was okay. Like, it served a purpose. It brought up a conversation that, you know, some people, especially outside the community, probably have wondered, yeah, whatever did happen to that? Like, that was a thing growing up, and now, like, what was the deal? And so it kind of lightly touched on those things. But there are two main points that I want to bring up from this. Number one, so the X Games. Yeah. I'm on the fence about this whole thing about shouldn't we be in the X Games. I do side with the point that Walton made about, you know, we're 2 years in to this whole thing. Why on earth are we even a part of this? But I also think back to what Arlo said in Barely Dead, the documentary from 2006, about, you know, it's our job to grab them after they've been exposed initially to something like the X Games. That makes a whole lot of sense to me. You know, that we, after they've been exposed to what it is that we do, now here's us culturally. Yeah, this is the corporate side. This is the side where all the training and you know, doing lines and that's there. That has a need. But you know, here's us culturally, and yeah, that's important. So I'm on the fence with how I feel about the X Games, because yes, the exposure is important, but if you get too involved in it, then it becomes too corporate, and that can become a problem as well. So you're getting money, but you know, where's the money coming from? you know, and like how do you know, justify what you do, especially when you're getting money from, you know, sources that are not related to the industry that you know, are, you know, creating. So I get that. So I see both sides of that one. The other one, though, David Carney is the face of this joke about fruit booters and whatnot, but he's not the, you know, the wellspring. He's not the source, because the whole thing about gay bladers and all that was around even before Chris Edwards' first pro skate. People, especially in Thrasher magazine, they were putting out stuff that, you know, we don't like rollerbladers as early as '92. You know, even before the boom, so to speak. So it's always kind of been there. And that rivalry, yeah, I get it. But, you know, Carney was just the face that kind of got it really going. And I mean, I have his book, Poop, and it has a lot of those articles in there, and, you know, how he views the industry and whatnot. And in relation to what he said in the video, you know, yeah, he probably does regret some of the things that he said, especially when it comes to the homosexuality part. But I just view him as a man, and he was basically just one part of it. He's not the killer, so to speak. So he's really not the issue as much as what I believe it to be, which is. So this might be a little difficult to hear for some people, but I think that the industry, community, whatever you want to call rollerblading, inline, comes down to three facets. And the first one is really just us in general. And this is going to, you know, see a theme that connects with all the points I'm going to talk about here in a second. And it starts with Barely Dead. Barely Dead came out now 20 years ago. And I think that documentary, in its time, had a place. And it was kind of needed. But the more time passes after the fact, it is becoming more and more apparent that that was more of a preaching to the choir moment. That there's really not the honest and open discussion that should have been. Yes, there are some very candid conversations by people talking about the issues that they're facing in a quickly shrinking industry. And yeah, it was a sore spot for us, and you know, we still carry that narrative to this day of this prosecution that we faced because skateboarding hated us. Yes, it served a purpose, but I think at this point we need to let that go. Barely Dead is, I think at this point, doing us a bigger disservice now than anything else, because it's basically telling everybody that we have a persecution complex. Like we have been wronged and we just won't let it go. And for people to still be talking about it even today in a way that's like, yeah, that's right, we've been harassed constantly. Yes, that is true. I'm not here to invalidate your thoughts and your feelings, but we have to get past it. And I think for us to grow, that has to happen first. So, at the time, Barely Dead was self-serving. It served a purpose. I know I felt it when it came out, and I bought the DVD. Still love the skating in it, but the documentary part with the interviews and that, that's not aging too well at this point. The second part of this equation for us is the divisions. And there are essentially 3 eras of division that coincide with this. The first one is the early 90s. And in the early 90s, we were, as a community, trying to delineate ourselves from Venice Beach, is the best way that I can describe it. With the spandex and all of that. You can see this plain as day in the first video specifically made for blading Dare to Air. I mean, the very first skit is Chris Edwards as, well, there's no other way to put it, as a spaz in spandex trying to get on in this video because he's hardcore. Because even then we're seeing, oh yeah, we rollerblade, but we don't do that. You know, we had to even be so divisive within our own community of inline skaters, and that was the first disservice, that we weren't embracing everybody right off the bat. And we had some power players if we'd have done it, if we'd have stuck with it. Yes, we needed to carve our own niche. That was apparent. But you had Rollerblade, and their team manager was Jill Schultz. You know, the daughter of the guy who created Peanuts. So what are we doing? Like, I understand, yes, we're trying to delineate, but we should not have pushed that hard against it. Like, there could have been elements that you would have embraced and you'd still been fine. The second aspect of this division is more of a reaction to what skateboarding was doing, as well as Carney, which was the Hammer era. Don't get me wrong, it is some of the most awesome skating that has ever existed. I mean, it is impressive the things that people were doing, and I do agree with some people that yes, it was just a natural evolution and it was us pushing the envelope. I mean, if you think about the people who were at the top of the game back then in that time, are all young people. I mean, barely 20 at best, no other obligations, doing what they loved, pushing it as far as they could go. And why I say this is division is essentially twofold. One, it was because of that reaction. And I will borrow from what the mushroom blading guys have said about, look how heterosexual I am. I'm going to jump up and do this crazy handrail. That's how straight I am. To paraphrase them. To the point where that becomes intimidating to do hammer skating, right? Because if you're brand new into this activity and this is what you're seeing in videos and whatnot, like, do you honestly want to try to even do that stuff? Like, if you're brand new and you're just happy to lock on front side on a bike rack, the bottom of a bike rack, and then you see Haffey, Aragon, and Broskow doing what they're doing, and it's like, I don't know if I can do any of this. Like, that's intimidating. And like, when it's just every video is just that. A good indication of that is Leading the Blind. How much actual creative skating is going on in there? Very little. It is hammer after hammer after hammer. I mean, if you show anybody Pat Lennon's section that has no clue about inline, they're going to be like, these people are insane. So that intimidation factor, I think, contributed to this division as well, because not only are you scaring away potential new people, that era also scared away creative individuals. I mean, that is the same era when Cirque du Soleil came out, and people were livid at what the Kamloops guys were doing. They're taking what the community had and tried to spin it a different way, and people were not happy. Before you even start with, well, we've always had creatives, who were they? Dustin Latimer, Chris Farmer, I would argue Dominic Sagona, out of that era. I mean, yes, there were creatives even before that, TJ Weber, Andy Cruz, guys like that, but like during this time. And why could they get away with it? Yes, there were arguments, especially when Farmer started wearing tight pants and whatnot, but these are going back to the divisions that I'm talking about. Why are they allowed to get away with it, so to speak? The second half of Words is like this defining change of like, here are some creative things going on. It was even in Daily Bread reviews that you may not like this section of the video because it's different. Latimer's doing hand plants and whatnot that are just totally, out in left field in comparison to everything else. But Latimer gets the pass because of what he did in Brain Fear Gone, Medium videos, all of that beforehand. It's like he proved himself here. Now it's cool from here. So when the Kamloops guys show up and they're not of any consequence to anybody because it's like, who are they? Of course you're gonna, dump on them. So then you see this division within the Hammer versus creative, and we can't have this creative stuff because it's making us look bad. So this third part is what's going on now. And, in light of what I saw from Cam Card and what he talked about, I can see some truth in that in regards to, like, we're more reunions than actual celebrations so that anybody can be a part of it. Like, I still applaud what Chris Edwards is doing with NIS and having junior divisions, as it were, where, little kids can, participate and compete. That's needed. Because really anymore with any street competition or most competitions in general, it's generally the idea that just a bunch of old people getting together and having a fun time, and there's going to be some vices there that, you probably don't want your kids to be around. I think there is a time and place for it, because you're going to need something after you, almost break your ankle trying to do something in a bowl you haven't done in 15 years. But, that has also been a little divisive, and I think that's a bigger part of it because there is no youth movement right now. Virtually none, at least not in the United States. I mean, the most that I see comes from Southeast Asia, and they're killing it, but I'm not seeing I ain't seeing anybody in the Western Hemisphere, so that's a bit of a concern. If you want this movement to continue, especially in North America, that's what you're going to need. And I don't think the environments have really catered to that. So probably monitoring that would be a good idea too. Finally, and I think this is the biggest issue with us, and that is we don't know who we are. I agree with the podcast that I saw last year from Jump Street, which is rollerblading has an identity problem. We don't know who we are. We do not have a label, so to speak. Like, going back to Barely Dead and Shane Coburn talking about, we don't really have a label for what it is that we do because it helps people understand. The whole thing with aggressive inline, yeah, that worked in 93 because that's the era of extreme. Totally fine with that, but aggressive just sounds like you're trying too hard, and, that's really not what we're about anymore. At least I hope. We need to figure out what exactly it is that we do. I've heard Chris Edwards talk about this at length in the Jump Street podcast interviews as well. Like, what do we call ourselves? Now, he goes with freestyle roller. I've heard bladers, skaters, whatever. But it does beg the question, who are we? Like, what do we call ourselves? Because, Jump Street had that conversation, and it's like, yeah, everybody sort of looks at us as like a variation of skateboarding, which, yes, that is true. But we need to have some semblance, some as much as I hate labels, we kind of need a label. Like, what it is that we do, so that when we say it is what we do, it's like, oh, that's what you do. Cool. Like, when people say they skateboard, people automatically have an idea of what you're doing. You're at a park, or you're, on a half pipe, or whatever. You say you're rollerblading, there are so many different facets to that. Like, are you doing roller hockey? Are you rolling down the boardwalk? Or are you grinding rails and ledges? And I think that right there is probably the biggest killer. And it's a result of the things that we have done to ourselves probably in the last 30 years. Between pushing away the dance team, shunning any creative skating, and everything had to be hammers, and pushing this victimization, which, yes, again, at the time, totally needed. We needed something to feel better. And that video, that documentary did the trick. But I think now at this point, we need to be more mature about it. We've taken our lumps. So what have we learned here? Hopefully something, as I babbled on, but a couple of things. First and foremost, rollerblading is not dead. Nobody killed it. Is it out of the spotlight? Yes. And I think, and kind of thank Carney for that, if he wants that credit, even though I'm not going to give it to him. I do like the idea that, yes, when he said that it's more punk rock than it's ever been, I'm happy for that. When it comes to the X Games thing, I waver on that. I understand why we would need it for the exposure, but I think there's better ways to do it. I just don't know what they are right now. But the bigger thing about all of this, if anybody did a disservice to inline, it's probably us. I get it, we're protective, and I think what we've done is a little bit too much in the way of gatekeeping, in ways that turned off a lot of people. And I feel that if we want it to come back stronger than ever, and we're making those strides now, and I'm very proud of what we've done, is to be the more inclusive group. Like, we're doing things now with quad skaters. I see that happening a lot. We are very inclusive with a lot of different communities now, and I think that is a good thing. I really wish that had not been an issue at the time. Like, I honestly believe if we had embraced the fruit booter tag back then, instead of doing like all the hammers and say, oh, you're just against, the homosexual community and the LGBTQIA, we embrace you. Come in with us. And I think that would have kept our numbers stronger. I mean, we learn. Hindsight is 20/20. And I see us making strides. Now, there's still lumps that we have to deal with. There's still going to be issues and stigma and all that, but skateboarders don't really care about us anymore. They won the war, and so they now have to deal with corporate. I'm kind of glad they have Nike and we don't. Not that Gap or Fila was doing us any favors, or Levi's. So, I think we're in a better position now than ever. And I believe if we can take those steps of reflecting on what we did and work to make amends, and more importantly, figure out what the hell we are. Like, what do we call ourselves? I think we'll make more and better strides moving forward. So I know I probably pontificated way too long. I'm already going to hate editing this. But those are my thoughts. And I welcome all dialogue. So until next time, party people, toodles.